Theratrak itself, it's a mobile app and a web platform. I always say to everyone, Theratrak, the mobile app for therapists, is like the Instagram and Snapchat for therapy. So photos and videos of participants in their therapy sessions. You attach that to activity cards with instructions that they need to complete. You can create them yourself. You can use ours. And then at the end of that, you can set notifications. So I want you to do this at 4:00 on a Thursday afternoon. And the notification will say, you can type whatever it is. It's time to do X or it's time to do Y.
My guest today is Laura Simmons, a paediatric occupational therapist and founder and CEO of Theratrak, a digital platform enabling allied health professionals to work collaboratively to create, monitor and track custom therapy programs. As an OT, Laura spends most of her time working one-on-one with children between the ages of 2 and 15, living with various challenges. Laura created Theratrak after noticing a distinct lack of innovative technology solutions targeting the ongoing care of participants. Theratrak supports therapists to save time on administrative tasks and streamline workflows, making home programming simple and easy. For patients, the app improves access to home programming materials, and gamification features encourage completion of activities. For clinicians, it's designed to support those with growing workloads and wait lists, with a positive flow-on effect of improving clinician mental health and reducing burnout rates. Welcome to Hacking Health. This podcast is for future-focused health experts, thought leaders and change makers who are interested in making health accessible for everyone, because together we can get to the future faster. Can you share a bit about your background as a paediatric occupational therapist and the experiences that led you to where you are today with Theratrak?
So I became a paediatric OT about, it's now 10, 12 years ago. Through when you go through your OT course and things like that, you get to experience, part of the course is you do 1,000 hours of work placement, and you get to experience all the different areas of OT, and it's really, really cool. Like, I think it's a great way to learn about the profession because it's so diverse. And I was lucky enough in my career or in my course to do a mental health placement, and then I did a pediatric placement, and then I did another pediatric placement, and I just fell in love with pediatrics. I think it's such an interesting space. I think it's so rewarding. It's so fantastic to see these kids, in areas where they're really struggling, and then succeed, and then see the outcome that happens when a kid is making their goals and achieving their things, and what that impact is in a whole family. It's really, really cool. And so I was working in pediatrics for, Theratrak's 5 years old now. That's crazy. I have my own little school-age child, I guess.
I know.
And yeah, so I was working in pediatrics, working for private clinics, working in the community, and I guess just noticing all these inefficiencies that were just frustrating the pants off me, right? Like, seeing, why were we still faxing things? Why was I still writing things down? Why was I still drawing stick figures for people and trying to explain, this is what a bear walk is, and drawing this stick figure that looked horrible because I'm not an artist at all, and going, I use Google Calendar, I use product management tools, we use all these things online. Why aren't we doing this in therapy? And that's kind of where Theratrak started, along with lots of other sort of origin stories of clients saying, I've spent this much money in therapy, why aren't I making any success? I'm doing feeding therapy where the homework is so intense, but life happens outside of therapy. There's all these things that happen, and you go, well, why can't I remind someone at 4:00 in the afternoon to do the thing that I need them to do? Why can't I get that data back from someone saying, yes, I've done it, and therefore it helps me know what I need to do in my next therapy session? So that's kind of the origin of Theratrak. It's definitely expanded from there. It started as a pediatric OT platform, and now it's multidisciplinary, age agnostic. Yeah. It's really, really cool.
So it's really exploded in its popularity and options.
Yeah.
That's amazing. 5 years is a short time for that.
I know. And it's all come out of therapists saying, well, can I use it over here? Can I use it over here? And I truly believe in co-design. I think it's the only way to make anything in healthcare, especially. And so we have therapists that'll jump on the platform. And I think that's the cool thing about therapists and parents in this space. They're all looking for something that's innovative that'll help them.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, I wish the app did this, or I wish it did this. And we sort of have a conversation of, well, why do you need it to do that? And most of the time I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want your speechy and your OT on the same platform and getting your information in the same place? That makes sense. Or, you know, why wouldn't you want this to integrate with your case note system so you don't have to double write your notes? That makes sense.
Great idea.
Like, so it's growing and expanding. So something I thought was pediatric OT is, it's definitely not just pediatric OT anymore.
That is so amazing. So we were just talking before we started filming about our love of different resources. What are some of your favorite resources? And that could be books or websites or podcasts or whatever it is that you go back to time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many out there, right? There's so many awesome things. I think from a business perspective and business building perspective, I really love Strategizer and the Business Model Canvas. I think that was a great way for me to start thinking about Theratrak on a bigger scale, rather than just thinking about it as this sort of small solution that was going to help a small population of people. Strategizer have like lots of free resources. They have great books around helping you think about things from a problem and then a solution and pain points and gain points. And I think that's just a great way of thinking about building products. In the health tech space, probably one of my favorite groups at the moment is Talking HealthTech. They're an awesome, awesome group. Who started it just had this idea of bringing all these awesome health tech entrepreneurs together. And it's a great mix of clinicians, tech entrepreneurs, all sorts of people within the space. And he has an awesome podcast, but I also really like the group because you can go in there and ask for help, which is awesome.
Yes, and with all those different skills in there, there will be somebody that has done it before or...
Oh, exactly. Probably the other one that and then they go through ebbs and flows, right? At the moment, we're thinking about growth and scale and traction and things like that. So I'm back on the book of it's called Traction.
Yes,
and it helps you sort of go down your bullseye of figuring out what you need to do and your sales things and things. Again, nothing I thought I was going to do as an OT, but now I'm learning about sales and figuring out all of those things.
I know. So do you have an implementer?
An implementer? What's an implementer?
Oh, so Traction's the first book by Gino Wickman. There's another book that teaches you the supports that you need as the leader.
Well, there you go. There's my next
one. All right,
I'll find what I love about these things is I'll
find a link to it. I've just had this mental blank about what it's called, but it will come to me either during our chat or after. I'll send it to you because that's after you reread Traction. That's the one to read. That's the one to read.
Thanks for that.
It makes you realize you don't have to do it all on your own, which as an entrepreneur, you often feel pretty lonely and isolated. So,
I mean, Leah, you do and you don't. I think.
Yeah, you've found a tribe.
Yeah. When you find your tribe and you find your people, it's not as lonely as you think and
as you might have felt like at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who are some of your role models or mentors and how have they influenced you on your business journey?
Oh my goodness. There's probably way too many to mention in one podcast. I think I'm one of those people that, when I've got a problem, I'll go out and source, okay, I need that person for this or I need that person for this. At the moment, I've been working with some really great mentors in the health and allied health space. So both of them have built and created their own allied health businesses that are ginormous in the space. Leanne Healy and David Seger, they're amazing people in terms of understanding this space and helping you solve the problem, but also seeing it from the business side and seeing it from that customer side as well. But yeah, there's probably way too many people that I've picked the brains of over the years.
Yes, they're the two key ones at the moment.
And it's such a great space. I think the health tech space is a really cool space where everyone knows that we're all in this to make people's lives better. And so everyone's that I've ever met has always been happy to help or happy to share their knowledge. And I think it's just this combined effort and it's really, really cool.
Can you share a favourite success story or achievement that you've been most proud of?
The most recent one, I think, was we went over to the American OT conference, which the OT conference here in Australia, we get about 1,000 therapists-ish, 1,500 therapists, and we go, this is massive. I went to their smallest conference in the US, which had 7,000 therapists at it. I was just blown away by the amount of therapists there, but it's just fine. They're a lot bigger than we are here in Australia. Yeah. And I entered into a competition. They had this amazing competition called the OT Inventors Showcase, where you pitched your invention to a crowd of OTs. So obviously a crowd of my peers, of researchers, of university professors, all these amazing people. And we won the Inventors Showcase, which was really cool. So we came first, and I just got some amazing feedback from OTs over in America, and understanding that the problem isn't just a problem here in Australia, that it's in the US as well, and that, and all these OTs over there. And that's just opened up all these opportunities.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. So have you started rolling it out there?
Personal achievement.
Is that rolling out there?
Yeah. So we became HIPAA certified during the pandemic, because I had all these US OTs just reaching out to me going, how do I do everything, and how do I support my participants outside of therapy? So we did that, and then we're just trying to figure out our way into the US, because it's so big and it's so diverse. And so I thought the OT conference would be an interesting place to meet, some of those people, those decision makers, and which we did. And so we're rolling out a pilot with a telehealth company. We're rolling out a pilot with a university, and just seeing and figuring out, where the right niche for us is at the moment.
Oh, that's amazing. Exciting. That is so amazing. Oh, I'm jealous. My business as legal services, very limited in location, really only Australia, unless we want to get people who are admitted to practice or get admitted to practice in different locations, which the US, it's all 50 states is differently regulated. So, talk about healthcare being highly regulated and difficult to break into. So it's such an amazing achievement to be where you're at after only 5 years. So how do you balance your work and personal life to maintain your well-being and productivity?
Being able to, switch off, and making sure that your team switches off as well. I make sure, there are times when, as a startup, we have to work, and, we were working at 8-10 o'clock on Friday night, trying to roll out new features. And that just happens. That's part of being in a startup. But I think the other thing is respecting everyone's time, and making sure that, if you are working at 10 o'clock at night, which does happen, that I always make sure I send, my team, I'm sending you this, but don't reply to it. Yes. Or I will schedule an email and make sure if I'm sending them an email, they're not, getting it until 8 o'clock the next morning and things like that. And then I think it's just important, making sure that you prioritize friends and family and your mental health and exercise. It probably helps being a health professional that I teach all of this, and I live it all as well.
True.
And I think I'd burn out too fast if I didn't.
Yeah.
I think, if you didn't have the time out or go to family events or see your friends on the weekend and things like that, you'd burn out too fast.
Yeah.
And also, where's the fun in that?
I know. You're so right. It's such the right attitude, but I think it can be difficult for people who are really, really excited about their idea.
Oh, don't get me wrong. There are weeks
you've probably
where,
gone through phases where it's been harder than other times.
Oh, for sure. And I think there are moments where you can't step away, when you've got to do something and things like that, and you're the only person that's the one that is the person that can do it. But as well, trying to set things up so that you can step away, or trying to set things up, a lot of automation that sits in the system and things like that. So I'm working on it. I'm not exactly perfect at it, of course not, because we're only 5 years young.
Yes.
But I think it's a big piece, and it's something. I mean, if I'm teaching it to any of my clients, I've got to practice what I preach.
Yeah,
right?
True. That's true. You just have to. It's a reality check every time you do that, I'm sure. Can you explain in layman's terms how Theratrak works and the benefits for both therapists and participants?
Theratrak itself, it's a mobile app and a web platform. I always say to everyone, Theratrak, the mobile app for therapists, is like the Instagram and Snapchat for therapy. So photos and videos of participants in their therapy sessions, You attach that to activity cards with instructions that they need to complete. You can create them yourself. You can use ours. And then at the end of that, you can set notifications. So I want you to do this at 4:00 on a Thursday afternoon. And the notification will say, you can type whatever it is. It's time to do X or it's time to do Y. And that should take the therapist, I hope, 5 minutes max to complete. That's the whole idea of it, is to be able to finish it by the time you leave your therapy session. They can also now capture some session notes and things like that also then, once they hit send, we've got a few integrations that live in the case note systems that they have to write their medical records in. And so those case notes get automatically saved in their case notes to save them a bit of time with their note writing. And then the participants have access to, we call it a gamified app. So it's got some rewards and badges and things like that the participants can earn. It's got an awesome little koala that's called Kelly. He's our little theramate that pops up and gives positive reinforcers to go, great job, you're doing awesome, and things like that. And then they tick their activities off. They can view the videos their therapist has sent. They can also write in the journal and give feedback. They can rate their feedback. And then the cool thing with that then for a therapist is all that data automatically goes back to them. So they get this little report before their next session, so you can see how much they've ticked off, what they've done, what the progress is. And then as a therapist, you go into your next session going, okay, I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
This week was easy, this week was tricky. And it just kind of closes that loop of communication for both the therapist and the participant. And probably the other thing that's a bit unique with us is we can also invite multiple guardians. So that was, figuring out a pain point for parents. It's not just mum, it's dad, maybe it's grandma, maybe it's an auntie, maybe it's a support worker, maybe it's a teacher. Who else is involved in that care network? And rather than the therapist having to send one email to the teacher, one email to the parent, one email here, they hit send and it goes to everyone at the same time. So that's probably the other cool feature.
Yeah, that's an awesome feature.
Saves everyone a little bit of time, hopefully.
And that's helpful not only for children, but for people who are aging, or people with disabilities, like lots of different kind of needs for that support network.
And that's what we found. So we started in pediatrics and then, therapists would find us. And I often get, because we have in our email form, it's like, how did you find us? And one lady said to us, I scoured the internet trying to find your solution. I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome. But people go, well, I can use this in aged care. I can use this in adults with disabilities. I can use this in rehab. I mean, there's a hand therapist on our platform. There's someone in rehab. There's people in adults with disability. There's people working with kids. It's so varied. And I think we've tried to make the platform really customizable so that anyone can jump on. Because if I need to remind you to do something at a certain time, it can work across any sort of discipline and age, which is kind of cool. I think it's really cool. And I hope that as well that it grows with someone. So if you start using Theratrak, when you're in early intervention, but then you age out of early intervention and you're working into adults, your problems or your challenges might change and your goals might change, but you're still working with a therapist in a different capacity. So then Theratrak can keep going with you and be that kind of source of truth almost, I guess, of what you've done in therapy.
Yeah, because you can forget.
Oh, surely. So much stuff you do in therapy. There's a lot.
It's a lot. Oh, so exciting. So in the context of healthcare startups and innovation, what are the legal issues or challenges that you think entrepreneurs should be cautious of, and how can they proactively address them? At Ulegal, we're all about prevention rather than dealing with the fires at the end of legal issues. So I'd love to hear your experiences.
I think being a health professional coming into building HealthTech was a big win for me, and sort of understanding the basics of how you share data and what you can and can't do and things like that. That's been a big help for me. But I think that's a big thing, right? Data privacy, who owns the data, where's the data stored, how do you keep all of that safe? Because I can't remember where it was, but someone said to me once that healthcare data is more valuable than credit card data now, which is, wow. It makes sense, but it's also just like, okay, cool. We've got a big responsibility here to make sure. And then on top of that, we have therapists that are taking photos and videos of kids. Like that's a huge piece,
sensitive
right?
data.
So knowing those things as someone that's worked in health and going, okay, well, we need to make sure we're getting consent, because that's a big piece of taking photos and videos. We need to make sure that we're adhering to all of the laws in Australia and trying to keep up with that. That is tricky. There's a lot of stuff, but being proactive, making sure that you're adhering to the latest laws, definitely making sure you've got yearly audits about the things that you're doing. Is there anything that needs to change? Is there anything that needs updating? Working with a good lawyer is always I couldn't recommend that enough, of making, because you guys know the ins and outs of the wording and everything like that, that as much as some of it's set in layman's terms, a lot of it is still tricky to understand.
Definitely. It's like you can, as a non-lawyer, spend hours and hours trying to come up with the right wording and still not nail it. Whereas, it might take us a while still to find the right wording to capture what it is you're trying to do. But at least then you have that comfort that you're protected and not flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, and I think as well, one of the things I didn't realize at the start was, and maybe I know this now, but knowing that lawyers, just like OTs, are specialized in different areas, and understanding that you need someone that understands medico-legal or health law, not just contract law or whatever it might be.
Yeah, not just general business.
Even more important as well.
What has been the role of Theratrak in remote and rural communities?
Yeah, this has been a really interesting one. We've got a few therapists out in sort of regional Victoria and regional South Australia, and even I think regional New South Wales now as well. And one of the biggest things for us that they were telling us is that we have these huge wait lists that, there's wait lists everywhere in allied health at the moment. There's this huge therapist shortage, and huge influx of people that need support and things like that. But it's even crazier out in rural towns and communities, because the challenge in those communities is, well, there might only be one therapist in that town, or there might only be one team of therapists. There's nowhere else to refer these people to. And so these therapists then are going, well, I have this huge guilt because I can't send them anywhere else. I can't help them. I don't know what to do. And we've had we actually did a case study at the end of last year with a group in regional Shepparton in Victoria. And she was like, this therapist, great innovative practitioner, I absolutely love her. And she was like, what if I just created kits and I sent out therapy programs on Theratrak? I monitored them. It took me 10 minutes to monitor them rather than seeing someone for an hour. I've triaged them. I know what they need. They've had an assessment, but I'm supporting them asynchronously, and I can support 10
100 times more people.
One. Yeah. And she had 180 on her wait list, and just within this trial, she got 34 people off her wait list like that. And I was like, that is fantastic. You're using therapy in an asynchronous way, supporting people where they need to be supported so they're not being left behind, but not just handing them a piece of paper with a bunch of activities to do at home and having no idea what happens. But also one of the cool things that came out of it, she was saying, was after they did this sort of 8-week program, some of them got off the wait list and needed some more one-on-one support. They came into therapy more prepared. They understood what therapy was about. They had all of this background knowledge and all of these things. And I was like, it was a happy sort of, unknown thing that they found out. But it was, and I think that's just cool. Like, if we can support using technology to support more people access therapy, because there's no way in the next 10, 20 years we're going to make enough therapists to support the people that need therapy.
Yeah.
So I feel like tech has to fill that gap.
But then that's also like supporting innovative therapists to have the ability to be able to provide services in that way that maybe people wouldn't have thought about before, because they wouldn't have known how to facilitate it.
Yeah, and I think that's why we did the case study, and we made sure that we did a whole bunch of research around it, because I think it's such a cool thing to share, and it's such a great way for people to get access to therapy that might not get access before.
Well, especially if there's 180 people on the waiting list. Like,
that's a small one
many
too.
Hours is that? Like, how many years is that waiting? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, we thought that we might play a game at the next conference and just get everyone to write down their waiting list numbers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
One person told us they had over 1,000 people on their wait list.
That's insane.
Right? Like,
that is crazy. Yeah. What would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of your business journey so far? anything particularly heartwarming or inspiring that you'd like to share?
I think all of those stories that I hear about participants succeeding are some of my favorites. You know, when someone tells me that someone who couldn't get access to therapy before now has access to therapy, or even just seeing comments, some of the therapists will send me through comments from parents and stuff like that. One lady she just said, "Oh, it was just so easy to click and tick and be reminded at the right time." And I was just like, that's exactly what we want to be.
That is the whole thing.
And then I think one of my favorite success stories was I was working with a participant, and we, using Theratrak, great engaged family, and it was the shortest amount of OT that I've ever done. I did 10 weeks with this kid, and he then graduated, and we met his goals, and he's out in the community. He still has Theratrak that lives in the background. He's supported, but he doesn't need one-on-one therapy. And I think that's just, like, for me, that's an awesome success story, right? Like, things are being implemented, the family's supported, and off he goes.
Yeah. The ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's it, right? Maybe get kids off the NDIS. Who knows? Am I allowed to say that?
I think so. Even better, like, it's amazing. Yeah. So as someone who wears both the hats of a healthcare professional and a tech entrepreneur, what advice do you have for others looking to innovate in healthcare or to start their own health tech venture?
Do it. It's so much fun.
Just do it.
I think, it is, like, that's in the short sense, but it's really fun. It's really cool to see something that you've built help so many people. And I mean, I'm a big believer that there needs to be more tech, especially in allied health. There's so much room for innovation in this space, right? There's so much room for us to extend the impact of what we're doing and how we're supporting people and families, but also therapists as well. There's a lot of inefficiencies in allied health documentation, report writing, those sorts of things that, I mean, if I had more time in the day, there'd probably be more things that I'd innovate and problems that I'd try and solve. But in terms like report writing, for example, that can be automated. There's so much of that can be automated, and all of those sorts of things. So I think there's so much room for innovation that, if you can find the right people to partner with as well, like that would be another thing as well, as find a cool tech team or find a cool startup program or something like that can help you understand the tech world, because it is a different world, and understand the lingo and the language of how to build tech. But most of the time, like, if you think about the problem that you want to solve, it probably can be solved in some respect with tech.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be super complicated. I think that's the other thing as well. Like, the tech doesn't have to be AI, augmented reality, VR, deep tech, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, that stuff's really cool. But it doesn't have to be super complicated in order for it to be efficient and work and help people.
Love it. All right, we've got time for one more question. What upcoming developments or opportunities in your field do you think that our listeners would be advised to keep an eye on?
The start of October, we had a whole bunch of new features that allowed therapists to create their own session notes, to also have lots of more live views and interaction and asynchronous support with their participants with replying to things and different views on their app. The other things to look out for on our platform is probably more of the integrations. We've seen that's been a big help to a lot of therapists, and we're sort of really trying to work through all the different case management platforms. We're linked to Lumery and Core Plus and Clinico at the moment. If allied health professionals are listening, they'll know what those are. But we're trying to work through the rest of them. So that would probably be another thing to keep an eye out for us.
Yeah.
And we'll be at the OT conference next year. We'll be at the American OT conference next year, which will be really exciting. So
thank you so much for coming in today on Zoom. It's
you're so welcome.
Amazing to talk to you, and good luck with all your global expansion. It sounds terrifying, but also extremely exciting.
Exactly. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Love it. We're going to keep the conversation going in our private Facebook group, You Legal for Doctors. You're welcome to join us there.